Everyone. Thank you for joining us. I'm just setting up the YouTube stream as we speak. I'll go ahead and add Clint in as well. And let's add Lauren, just in case she has ideas. Awesome.
Look at that COVID hair.
Yeah, it's out of control. It's out of control.
Hi, Lauren.
I slipped in and got a haircut right before I left Phoenix because you could do it with the place that I go to. They were actually doing one at a time.
Right.
It's a three people share, so it's one room just with the one person. But then they were rotating through, so it's actually kind of nice. But I got that cut, and then that's been my last cut. I don't trust anyone in this area.
Yeah, my barber did the same thing. They have like 6 barbers that work in there, but they only have 3 now that work at any given time. And they're separated probably by like 10 feet. And everyone's all masked up and everything. And I was like, God, shave it all off, and I'll just come back once a month.
I guess that's the right way to do it. That's the right way to do it. Yeah. I was actually a little concerned with the person that I go to because she and 2 other people broke off and kind of started their own little thing. So it's one of those like kind of office shares, if you will, for salon.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? With like the little sections. So I was like, it's a little tight when 3 people are in it. I don't know how this is going to work. And then when I walked in, she's like, oh, we're just doing them one at a time. And I was like, oh, that makes a lot more sense.
That's a lot of how that business model works, though. Is there's the one person that runs the shop, and then he or she essentially rents the chair. So if you're a barber, you want to go rent the chair. So that is pretty cool. Anyway, Ted, how are you?
I've had better months. I'm in good health. People probably wonder how my dad's doing. It's kind of a terminal case. He's in hospice now, so we break down and cry a lot, but the rest of the family is healthy and doing well. And, I worry about my other family, here on SEO Fight Club and in IMG and over at SIA. And so now, I'm in quarantine because I've been through airports, aircrafts, and hospitals for weeks now. So I'm doing self-quarantine to keep my family safe. And SEO is a great distraction when you get hit hard by life. Thank goodness, we have something like this that can pull me away, keep me distracted, and just be amazing. And this whole community has been awesome. So thank you, everyone, for the well wishes and the concern and the reaching out. You guys are lifesavers.
Right on, right on. All right. Well, I think I'm running this one. Should I share my screen?
Yeah, let's go.
Yep.
All right. Rock and roll.
Camera off. Just point out, Lauren reminds me of Ellen DeGeneres. Same.
All right. Episode 69. I think this is 69. Does anybody have an official count on these things?
I lost count.
Looking to the future. Before we jump into that, let's check out some boilerplate. SEO this week is brought to you by our one and only Clint. Clint, what can people expect on SEO this week?
I haven't had a show for the last 2 weeks.
There you go.
I've been building my schema course. I had to, put up or shut up, and I put the schema course in front of the show. So, but that's live and out there now. So you can go to whatranks.com and check it out. There's no sales letter. So if you're looking for a fancy funnel and a whole bunch of upsells, you're going to be sadly disappointed. This course is sold Udemy style. Here's the course. Here's the outline. If you want it, knock it out. And I've heard some good things so far about it. So I appreciate you guys.
Yeah, I haven't seen it yet, Clint, but I've seen actually 2 or 3 posts on it on Facebook about it. And then I also saw Steve Toth. I don't know if he mentioned it in SEO Notebook or Facebook, but he said that he got a real huge nug out of it that went to one of his agency clients that they actually do their schema in-house. They got a whole schema tool that they've built, and they're incorporating one of your concepts in that.
Nice. Yeah, he said he was going to talk about it in the SEO Notebook. So if you guys aren't part of SEO Notebook, that's a really good resource too. So,
Oh, highly recommend that for sure. And let me. All right, heading on. What's next on IMG? So Friday we've got a pro tip with me. Tuesday is Ask the Expert with me. You get a lot of me. If you like Kyle, this is the place for you. And then next week we've got SEO Fight Club, and also throughout the week, of course, there are the roundups of podcasts and YouTube shows and stuff like that as well. All right. Last week, SEO Testing Mastermind. We do this in IMG on the second and fourth Thursday. It's open to premium members. But we talked about, does Google care about paragraph text that's wrapped in P tags? Will Google reward or index multiple title tags? What about canonicalizing with PDF pages? Is DR a good predictor of rank? And does word order matter with Google's NLP API? What was kind of fun about this, it was a real mix of if you were kind of newer to SEO, there's definitely nuggets to get out of it. If you were more on the hardcore end, that's there for you as well. And there are also a lot of takeaways and actionable steps that are involved in all of those. Check them out. All right, XPO 69, looking to the future. So in this episode, we're talking about things that could be, or how they might turn out. It's easy for people to say like SEO is dead, or this is dead, or that is dead. But in my mind, that's rather lazy. I think a better way to look at it is how to adapt or how to change. And the first step in doing that is predicting what might change or what that could be, to put yourself in a position to actually be available for that change, so that you can then implement. You won't be caught off guard. And so we're going to go through some things. This isn't a heavy hitting episode, but I think it's one really with the idea of spurring thought and imagination and seeing where you can take things with your own SEO. So the first one we're going to start talking about is what happens if Google stops counting links. And I think maybe the first thing here would be that what would replace links is kind of my natural first thought. The next thing would be, could they even replace links in the first place? Or is what Google is it links? Is PageRank and how they form the algorithm so intertwined with links that simply could not happen? In that case, could they devalue? Ted, I'll start with you on this. What happens if Google stops counting links?
Well, there are two sides to this that I see. There's the what's in the algorithm side, and then there's the side of what's in it for the business. And so I think this is largely governed by what's in it for the business. I think Google uses its PageRank patent as a barrier to entry to other search engines to keep them from emerging and competing. So I think as a factor, it's it's a strong factor. People rank with backlinks every day, but it's not a required factor. We see the strength of keyword density and trust signals and citations and other things also playing a role. So it's a smaller piece of the puzzle on the algorithm side. I think it's a much bigger piece of the puzzle on the competitive landscape.
Clint, in your opinion, if Google stopped counting links, or let's say in Ted's scenario that they simply devalue them a bit but keep them, is there anything that jumps out at you that would replace links as a larger factor? Or do you think that what would happen is things kind of level the playing field, that maybe there are 4 or 5 or 6 things that all are somewhat equal? Do you think there would be a winner that's replacing links, or do things kind of smooth out across more factors?
I think the winners would be the authority publishers, because I honestly, I don't see Google getting rid of links. Links is votes, right? So the more links you have, the more votes you have, saying the quality of your site is good. And to me, just using content analysis to rank a page would be probably a horrible idea, because we've all seen you can manipulate that really well. And then when you add links to it, if you say we're removing links, but in the background they use these popular sites, i.e. Facebook's, Twitter's, that kind of popularity, and the more votes you have on there, the more relevant your content is. And then you couple that with Google's consistent trend of taking your content off of your website and quote unquote rewarding you with featured snippets, and people also ask and all that stuff, which ultimately is just you feeding their content so that they don't have to send you traffic. You couple those two together, and I could see there being some sort of impact. And like Ted said, at the end of the day, it would probably be a complete business decision. So I keep you on Google. I give you the answers that you want. You're getting good answers, so you're not going to leave Google. Thus, you're more likely to click on the ad, so I can generate more money.
Yeah. To that kind of idea there on really at the end of the day, it's ad revenue and money. I was thinking, what if like in a backhanded way, they could switch to traffic? So the idea would be that if they could feel really good about getting rid of fake traffic, or at least being able to account for it in a reasonable way, they would maybe accept traffic from sites, those seed sites that really started the page rank. Those would become trusted traffic sources. And then there would be traffic that they can accurately count through regular organic results. And then there's all kinds of other referral traffic. Those are all those other links that are coming in. And then they would get devalued in a way, and essentially the sites themselves would be trusted more by the traffic that they're receiving. So if they could filter out bot traffic effectively, and then maybe repeat visits and stuff like that, and they could get to what they feel is a solid traffic number, they could start ranking sites or replace links by the traffic that is generated. And that might be a better method for them, to your point, Clint, on that it comes down to ad revenue. They want to be able to say, like, this site is actually more authoritative because it can make more money.
Well, in support of that theory, Google is probably the world's utmost experts on detecting click fraud. They have to be to maintain confidence in their ad platform. So, I think there's some room for that to play out.
So if you think about it, like, links still are there because links bring traffic, but it's not necessarily the link itself, but it's the traffic that comes from that link. So then that way, what they're looking at is, sure, that's a referring link, but what's coming through it. And then if they can filter out what is perceived to be not real, then they can get an accurate number of, like, okay, this site actually sends out this much traffic to other sites. That's the level of the vote, if you will, of that particular link. And then the traffic that's received is counted on the site receiving the backlink, or receiving the traffic, thus increasing their quote unquote authority by the amount of traffic that they are receiving. And then there are sites that are more trusted than others. That this is a trusted site for traffic because they're doing a really good job with, maintaining their links and what they're trying to do with their site, et cetera, et cetera.
Another small piece of evidence to support the possibility of this idea is the fact that, like, in my personal opinion, I think the relevancy of ads in search is much better than the relevancy of actual web pages in the organic web results. The fact that there's disparity in the algorithms and they're chosen by different factors just shows that there's still room for improvement, or doing it simply a different way.
I'm sorry. What was the distinction on those ads? Ads in search and ads where? I'm sorry.
Between the ads, the relevancy of ads in search versus the relevancy of web pages in the organic results. I actually think that ad search does relevancy better than organic web search in Google. That's my opinion.
Giant sound, if you can hear that behind me.
Oh, no worries.
All right, so the next one, AI creates all content. What changes, and this comes from a post that I saw from Eric. He posted the other day that everything's going to change within 3 years because all content created is going to be AI created, and small mom and pop sites will not be able to compete because they cannot generate the content necessary to keep up with the big guys. Clinton, you do a lot with AI generated content. I think the first way to start is, where do you see things with AI generated content now? And do you see the potential for AI content to take over regular content, if you will?
I think right now it's not up to the quality that it needs to be to say that it could take over. Like right now, based off of what we have, can it take over? I would say no. but it makes making content a whole hell of a lot easier. And with GPT-3 out, it's getting better and better and better. And eventually you can use, or we will be able to use AI to mass produce content. I don't think, I disagree that it will put out of business a small mom and pop type of thing, because you have audiences and you have promotion, and just because you're putting out all that content doesn't mean that someone's going to be reading all that content, nor will people find it interesting. So you have that, the other aspect of the marketing and the promotion that you got to deal with. So um but it is right now, it's making content easier to write. You can cut down on your research time, etc. And then as the AI or your AI model gets better and gets taught more on your market and can produce quality content in a faster way, or at least get you a nice 99% outline, um, it'll be easier to adopt that content marketing model. And I'm using air quotes. You can't see me, but
I could see them. Ted, what are your thoughts here on? I think maybe the concern would be, okay, maybe in a few years, as Clint said, it's not good now, or it's not there now, but it is getting better. Let's say it does get pretty readable in the next, say, 3, 4, 5 years. Would people then take advantage of that to create just massive amounts of content on the fly, which would bury all of the sites, and then also would that possibly bury the internet?
Yes. So there's some very serious implications for Google on people being able to perfectly spin. And that's kind of what we're talking about here, is creating software that can rewrite a Wikipedia article the same way a high school student would do it for a report. So we're not talking necessarily about creating information or creativity. We're talking about phrasing things in alternative ways. So, for example, you could have a sentence like, Tom went to the store to get some milk. You barely need to even change the word in order to rewrite that sentence and make it unique. You could have it be, to get some milk, Tom went to the store. Tom, who went to the store, got some milk. You can basically use all those words and just have, different ways of detecting the clauses, the parts of speech, and then rephrasing them into different sentence grammars. And I think the spinners of the future will be able to make content unique without even changing the words. It'll simply rephrase them and rewrite them the way a high school kid would.
Interesting. All right. A new search engine comes along. So something, Ted, that you touched on is that you think that Google with their links makes a kind of the barrier to entry. So the first question here is, other search engines have come along, and Bing is there, and between Bing and Yahoo and their kind of affiliates, they have a decent enough market share. But I'm impressed that in the last decade, no one has really come along as a serious contender to Google. Do you have any, Ted? Do you have any thoughts on that to start?
Well, history shows that in order to take over an established marketplace, you kind of have to leapfrog the technology. It's not good enough to be, 70% of what Google is. That doesn't get you to where you need to be. When Google came to the market, they leapfrogged all the other search engines. And so for a new player to emerge, they kind of need to go to that next level. So I think the key to this idea is to think about what Google needs to be at that next evolution. And right now, the things that Google is contending with is it's so expensive to police and curate the indexes. It's so expensive to have an index of everything. They have this engineering concept called shards. And shards are a database concept because at a certain point, your database is simply too big to reside on one server. And Google's database is that way. They have 200 trillion URLs. You can't have a copy of their database. You can only have copies of parts of their database. So their database actually resides on hundreds, if not thousands, of servers. And I think in an evolution, one possible way it could evolve is that Google could use its cloud infrastructure to outsource topical shards to people for curation and management. At that point, we as an SEO community, we might say, hey, Google, we'll use a cloud server. We want to have an SEO shard in the system. And so we'll manage indexing SEO websites for SEO keywords. People will rate the quality of our curation. And if we violate any rules, you can eject everything that's in our shard from the system. So there could be a way that Google could outsource the cost of the curation and the management and make search more scalable by basically, just delegating a lot of that cost and work burden out to the public and into the cloud. So I could imagine something like topic shards coming up, and then Google would then in search would know about those shards, would know what's indexed in them. You'd search for SEO Miami, and it would go out to, the 3,000 different SEO shards and get the results for that. You'd know which results came from which shard. They could eject anyone that's spam. It would change SEO. And I'm not saying this exact idea is what they're going to do, but SEO could evolve in ways like this that would totally change the landscape.
Clint, you do a lot with Bing. Are there any features in Bing that you see that are superior to Google? And would perhaps a new search engine go the features route? I see what Ted is saying, kind of going with that distributed route maybe as a way to do it, but maybe it's a features thing, and maybe Bing's got some of those.
It's a little bit hard to compare the two because Bing it's kind of like an afterthought from Microsoft, right? So they just started doing the webmaster tools and stuff to give you some more feedback. I probably would be even better because he's like down in the weeds with testing Bing versus Google stuff. So I'm just trying to rank on it. And, to me, it's kind of an apples and oranges. Bing copies a lot of the features that Google has, but there's not really a whole lot of original thought going on over there. So, what is and what isn't the difference between the two and how they're ranking is pretty unclear right now for me, at least.
A thought. Oh, go ahead, please.
Oh, I was going to say the interesting thing to me about Bing is just how close the competition is. Like, I know a lot of people don't think it's close. It's definitely not close in the international markets, but here in US and Canada, it's really quite close. And the reason I say that, knowing that, at best in this market, Bing has like a 30% market share, it's that the race isn't for them to swap places. The race isn't for Bing to get a majority of the market share. All Bing has to do is get close to even. Doesn't even have to get even, just close to even. And that generates equivalency. At that point, when Bing is 45% market share, you as a US SEO, you have to start treating Bing and Google the same, as equally important to your business. And so really what we're talking about here is Bing getting like 15 to 20% more market share, and then they're basically equivalent.
A thought that I had was manual curation as a possible answer, and my next thought was who has the most manual curators on the planet, and that'd be Wikipedia. And if Wikipedia added a top 10 sites to their to their listings, or like a top 20 sites, and it was edited by the people that have edited that page. Or there might be category pages that would do that. That might be a possible. Obviously, there's a lot of working pieces there and things to sort out. But going through manual curation, and they've already got an army set up, and they're already doing a pretty decent job on that. That might be a way to make it happen so that a serious contender comes in because it's actually being reviewed by humans, and humans can say, you know what, this actually isn't a good result, and here's why. And then have a little mini debate. There's a way to break ties, and then the top 10 get displayed, or the top 20 sites get displayed for that particular category or topic.
Well, the reason curation has failed in the past was corruption. Like the DMOZ directory was an example of that.
Mm-hmm. Right, and the thing that's interesting is that Wikipedia coming in at it, they're already, I mean, obviously they have their faults, and we all know their faults, but by and large, they've done a pretty good job with that. They could institute something quite similar, and they could even throw in the caveats and say, hey, look, this is how this is done. As all things, it is manipulable, but it's less so than an algorithm that can be completely janked by a blank page. You know, no blank pages in our results. And then, then people can also then edit and comment, like, I don't know why this result is here, and opens the floor for debate, because that's one of the biggest frustrating things for people using Google or any other search engine. And they're like, why is this site beating my site? Well, now they would actually have to give an answer. Well, this is why. And you can agree or disagree with that answer, but at least you know why.
If all I can say is that if the manually curated web directory comes back, Yahoo is going to be really pissed off.
All right, ZipZorp, the new social media platform. And don't think about it. I've already got zipzorp.com. But the concept here is that TikTok is blowing up at the moment. What do you guys think about, like, should you jump on the latest and greatest craze when doing your SEO or your campaign strategies, or if you're looking at paid? Is it worth chasing the newest thing?
It is.
Clint, you want to start with that?
Yeah, it is if your market's going there. If your target audience is jumping ship and going to a different place, or not even necessarily like quote unquote going, like leaving Facebook for what's that other one that they're talking about, the conservative social media platform? I forget the name of it. It starts with a P.
Oh, I know what you're talking about, but yeah, I can't think of the name. Yeah.
But if your market is going over there and they're spending more time over there, it makes complete sense for you to go over there. I think Facebook and the Twitters and all that, they're kind of ingrained in our cultures now, right? So across the world, those are really the two. Hey, what social sites do you? Facebook and Twitter is pretty much what you get. And there's a lot of people that say, "Oh, I'm not active on Facebook," but they all have Facebook accounts. They're using Instagram, which is Facebook, and then you talk about the TikToks, where I think honestly that's kind of jumping off, because every time someone writes this post about how it's Chinese and they're stealing your privacy, like 100 million people go over there and sign up for it because they're just curious, what the hell's a TikTok? So, just think about where your audience is, how you're going to reach them, and if you actually really want to spend the time over there. So I spend less time on Facebook than I do on LinkedIn, for example.
Oh, I really wanted you to say TikTok.
Yeah, no. I honestly, I just don't see any like financial value over there. You get them for what? How long is that audience there? Maybe 15 seconds on a video or something like that.
Yeah, it's a short amount.
Yeah, like what's the purpose of that? So you can make little mini commercials, I guess, but at the end of the day, it's people who are just bored and they got that thing on repeat, and it just goes and goes and goes. Like, I don't know if you've ever tried it, but you turn that thing on, your phone will just keep running with TikTok all day long. So.
I don't personally, but I know somebody in my household that does. The thing, I guess something that was interesting, I was looking at the history of TikTok, and so yeah, they're a Chinese company. TikTok launched in 2012, I think, and then in 2016 or so, they purchased Musical.ly, and then they really kind of relaunched into U.S. and other markets in 2018. And I mean, I'm becoming an older guy, but this didn't get on my radar until maybe 6 months ago, so 2020. But they've been around a long time. my question here is that would it be worthwhile to become a little speculative on some of these smaller social media platforms that are emerging so that you could actually have a presence on them to then take advantage of the marketing things when they blow up? Kind of like just a little like speculative marketing. Is that something possible? Ted, is that anything that you might think of to jump into?
First off, I absolutely love ZipSorb. This killer. I love the idea that it lets me control and manage dozens of main feeds. So I have my friends feed, my family feed, and I have like 26 topic feeds. It lets me prioritize people and organizations and keywords to rise to the top in those feeds. And for $2 a month, the platform goes completely ad free. So well done on ZipSorb. I hate Facebook. I hate Twitter. They're so negative. I don't want to spend my day, reading my uncle's political rants. I just don't want to do it. It's too hard. I mainly use the platforms for business, and oftentimes they're very negative, unpleasant places. I think there needs to be a lot of innovation in social media. It's an interesting start, but I don't think the execution has been great so far.
So to that point, if a platform jumps up that kind of you think, okay, this might solve some of those problems, but it's still in its infancy, but they have the opportunity for creating accounts and stuff like that, would you speculatively create some seed accounts, get some content on there, maybe continue to nurture them over 6-8 months, a year to see if it takes off?
Well,
is that a worthwhile investment?
I suspect that they'll have a real hard time getting critical mass. I think there are dozens of these platforms born every month, and they never get critical mass to take off. So I think somebody will eventually figure out how to integrate multiple of these things and force them through the improved experience. And it'll be that meta social and the new way of governing meta social that'll probably take off.
So is that a yes, you want to invest in that, or no?
Well, I wouldn't invest in it, but I think that's one of the very few ways it can go.
Like get platform or get accounts going and stuff like that.
Yeah. So if they could show a better way, I'd be more interested in engaging with it.
Cool. All right, hands-free devices. I think I feel like the topic in every conference over the last year and a half, 2 years has been voice search and when and why you should do it and how it's going to change everything. And I feel like that really didn't come to fruition, at least not yet. I have a Google Dot. I think we had an Alexa at some point. I think we got the Google Home. But I can tell you all I've ever used any of those things for is the weather and to play music. And like measurements, how many cups and whatever. But beyond that, I really haven't used it too much. And I feel like maybe it's fallen a little flat. Clint, do you feel that voice search right now through like those hands-free devices is a little flat right now? Or do you see it as growing and it's still something that we should really look into?
I personally thought it was always flat. And even, Rand Fishkin was one of the ones that was on that bandwagon, like really stupid early. And he's come out and saying, hey, it's not even worth your time. So to me, you have to look at the type of content you got. Is it workable with a voice search type of thing? And then see if your audience is even using voice search to find you at all right now. And I've got sites with millions of hits a month, averaging 200,000 visitors a day. And I could tell you that voice search isn't even on our radar. We could care less about it.
Yeah, it's something I've never considered really at all up until now. Like we got to go after that voice search market. Ted, where are you on voice search right now?
Well, I don't think voice search is where the future is going. I have my hopes in a different hands-free device.
Which is?
I had a lot of hope, and I was very disappointed by the execution of Google Glass. It failed hard and with good cause. I think they should have made the device not able to record. Like, that should have never been a possibility. But it still would have needed a camera for augmented reality. And what I would have loved to have seen come out of a natural looking pair of glasses are just simple utility apps that help people, like one that could recognize a face and hover the name of the person and how you know them, and the name of their kids. Just getting those dossiers on people you meet and don't necessarily know well or see all the time. Those types of things are amazing. And I would pay thousands of dollars to be able to have that ability at a conference, to be able to know everybody's name that I've ever seen at a previous conference. That would be amazing. That's where I think hands-free devices are going to go. And it'll be the searches that come as of a result. Like, you'll see, oh, they work at this company, I want to look at their webpage, or I want to look up something about them. That's where those devices will tap into search. And I think those types of applications will change how all of us do business.
For me, the fail on like Google Dot and Home and Alexa and all that is the inability to browse. I think we are browsing animals, and we need to be able to get near the target and then be able to browse to it or look around it. And that's simply not possible with voice search. It's really a yes or no type proposition. You say, hey Google, blah, 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 blah. You either get the answer right or you don't. And it becomes a frustrating experience when the answer isn't right. When you ask for a certain song and it plays another song, it is impossible just to do a quick correction. You have to reboot the Google stop, hey Google, blah, blah, blah. And you try to get them to get more to the point, but there are times when it simply cannot get there. And if you could browse to it, you could, or if you're like, I think it's around this area, and you can then search, kind of get to the point and then search around. So where I think hands-free devices need to go is some sort of display. Ted, I see what you're saying about the Google Glass. I could see a display popping out of a wristwatch, so that it's there and it pops up and it's interactive in space. So pops up and you can then browse around and move, maybe just through the hand motions that the wristwatch is able to pick up, or whatever the device might be, from how your hand is moving, so that you could, and it's voice activated, of course, so you could talk to it. It'll pop up things, but then you could also interact with it as you would a laptop or a tablet, essentially from that location. I think if they get some sort of display into hands-free devices, I think they'd be much better off.
Well,
or to Ted, to your point, to the Google Glass type concept.
Yeah, the other interesting concept about the augmented reality via glasses is that it would do away with things like monitors. You wouldn't need 4 big monitors on your desk, because you could virtually play screens throughout the space anywhere you like them, and as large as you like them to be. And so I think you'd start seeing, office setups without monitors, because you could augmented reality all of that hardware.
Though, when it comes to the cameras, it might be the thing that people just weren't ready for that. You think about when cell phones came about, you couldn't take them into the courthouse. And then when cameras hit phones, then you couldn't take them to certain places. But years later, that's all gone. You can take your cell phone into the courthouse now. You can take your cell phone into the locker room with you, and nobody's giving you a weird look when you pull it out. The society just gets more comfortable with those types of things, and I think is willing to deal with some of the other fallout from that.
Yeah, I think if the glasses just simply couldn't record, like that wasn't an option, that would probably bridge the gap and allow it to exist.
From the privacy perspective, though, you can't have dossiers, a whole bunch of people and their families and their businesses, etc., but then not record a camera. You know what I mean? It's kind of, I don't want to record your face, but we're gonna have a dossier of your face inside of here. So if I see you, it's gonna pop up all this information. You know what I mean? So,
it's just for augmented reality. It's not logging video somewhere.
I think I think more. It's probably more towards Kyle's point. It was just kind of before its time. Like, I'm like there, right there with Kyle. I watch Minority Report, and I want the Tom Cruise glasses where I can do the screen and my little thumbs and swipe left, right, and all that stuff, and not have to. I think that would be awesome as hell. And your computer is wherever your glasses are at. You know what I mean? Plugged into the cloud. That would be cool. But I think it was too early for us. Like it was to me. It just seems like the technology was going too fast. And then Google Glass went away, but then VR became really popular, and everyone's buying VR attachments to their phones and etc. I think it probably might even be a good time for them to bring that back, and I bet you they see a way better success from it.
Well, they also have to make the frames look like normal glasses because nobody wants to look like a Star Trek character. It's a terrible design.
I don't know.
Yeah, well, you got to get Star Trek.
All right. This is the last one and perhaps the most terrifying of any future vision. Things go on pretty much as they are. I love sci-fi and I like futuristic things, and you'll notice that 98% of all sci-fi is a dystopian future. And I think because it's quite easy to see how things could go wrong, but rarely do you see a sci-fi movie where they're in the future and like, oh, things are pretty good. Yeah, we made it. Like that doesn't happen. But I think history tells us that that's more likely than not what will happen. Of course, we have ups and downs. There are wars. There's disease. There's problems that happen here or there. But by and large, things kind of move on and move forward. What if that happens over the next 5 years? What if there aren't any sea changes? What if there aren't any massive shifts in this, that ZipZorp doesn't take over? There's no new search engine. Links don't go away. We have handheld devices, but they're just as functional as a laptop and nothing more. What happens then? Do we continue on as we continue, or should we be wary of something? Clint, do you have any thoughts on that?
If you think about it, we've kind of already there. We're already in the things go on as pretty much as they are kind of thing, right? So you have changes in from an SEO perspective. You have algorithm updates, you have the BERTs, and you have all that other stuff. But at the end of the day, we still have Facebook, Twitter, been around forever. They're just getting bigger. It's, to me, there has not been a national, and it's coming from a U.S. perspective, there's not been a national challenge to do anything cool. So, what Kennedy was the last one to challenge us. Let's go to the moon. You know what I mean? So, and we're not making technology bounds. We're not inventing new things. We haven't cured crap in forever. So we pretty much are, to me, right? I think we're living in the things as always how they are. Hey, it's fun. It's fun right now. So I think we're due for someone to challenge us to do something cooler.
Right on. Ted, any last thoughts on that?
Yeah, competition drives innovation. Nobody would invent things if it didn't lead to opportunity. And I think when you find that competition and innovation aren't present, what you typically have there are monopolies. And so my concern would be that Google is approaching or already at the status of a monopoly and doesn't really compete and doesn't really need to innovate. And they probably wouldn't, because creating new things to manage and maintain at that scale, the leapfrog events in technology, would cost a lot, and they need profit. They need ROI for their shareholders. So they probably love the status quo and maintaining it because that's probably really good for their bottom line.
Right on. As we end, Terry Power has a really good note here. He said the Google Glass Enterprise is selling pretty well as a tool for factory workers and repair people in industrial settings. That makes a lot of sense to me. And they said you can look up like instruction manuals and, assembly instructions. That's brilliant. Maybe that's how those types of technology become accepted. And that one group of people that can use it, and everybody can see like, oh, that makes a lot of sense. And they can see like, hey, I want that for my industry. And then that's the way that type of technology can then become normal, rather than kind of launching it onto the public and law en masse, and everyone like whoa, but then people see the practical applications of it beyond the massive privacy intrusion, and would then accept the benefits they would receive rather than and live with privacy issues. I don't know. Were there any anything that come up on YouTube, or should we just call this one here?
Give me a quick second on check.
Yeah, people want the URL for ZipSorp. I think they like my pitch.
Ted, that sounds like an amazing tool.
Nope, we're good on YouTube.
All right, good stuff. Well, thanks everyone. Appreciate it. Thank you, Clint. Awesome stuff. Ted, good to have you back. And we'll let it be your show next week.
Have introduced Lauren on the show yet?
Oh, I don't know if we have. Lauren is here. I don't know if she is here. Oh, yeah. Well, you were there earlier, but I wasn't sure if you'd gone away. But yeah, Lauren is the community manager of IMG, and we're happy to have her around. Say hey, Lauren.
Hey, it's great to be on the show.
Yeah,
Thanks for having me.
So, Lauren, what do you think is the future?
Oh, gosh. Well, I think that I love, Ted, what you were saying about, outsourcing a part of the internet. I think I spend most of my time right now in Discord and in Slack, and we're seeing all of these internets kind of developing outside of the major internet, and they're building little guilds of consultants and strategists. And all of this is taking place in Discord. And right now, Google doesn't have a hold on any of that. And so I wonder if maybe that's a way for Google to come in and maybe have some control over something they don't have any control over. So I don't know. I'm really keen on these little private networks. And I love the idea of us as browsing creatures. I think if we had a device that could bring us back to screens in an augmented reality, like that would connect us back to our bodies, which is so missing right now, and browsing would become movement. So I don't know. I think someone needs to come and be our next, let's go to the moon.
I agree. We need a great leap in technology, and someone's going to do it sooner or later.
I really like. Please. Oh, I was just going to say, I really like Mary Meeker released a COVID-19 report, and she always does that internet trends report. And she said that COVID attacked all of our systems, our most vulnerable systems, and now everything is kind of out in the open to remake. The police department, everything. So there's opportunity.
Well, that's a good point. That if once things are broken down, that's the time when you can build them back up.
Yeah.
I've had one thing that I've mentioned before is like anytime anybody said that they couldn't do it, like something you're dealing with, and like, oh, we can't do that. We can't do it that way. And now they can do it because of the situation. Whatever the reason for was just complete BS. And like if they can now do it, it means they could have done it before. All right. Well, thanks everyone. Thank you, Lauren, Clint, Ted, and thanks everyone for listening. And we will see y'all next week. Take care.
Bye-bye.
Bye.